Hello, my name is Mary. Although my abortion was 45 years ago, the decision still impacts my life today. I was just 16 years old, a sophomore in high school, when I found out I was pregnant. I was terrified of telling my parents. I thought for sure my father would beat me and throw me out of the house. I got pregnant at my boyfriend's foster parents' house. So his foster parents convinced me that my parents could file a police report against them and they could be arrested and taken to jail. They also told me my boyfriend would be kicked out of the boys' home he lived in. Talk about pressure. I felt like it was my responsibility to protect everyone and keep them safe. So I decided the solution was to abort my child. On a weekday morning, while my parents thought I was in school, I flew from Michigan to New York. I was so scared when I walked through the clinic doors. I was crowded into a lobby. A woman pointed to a plastic model of a womb with a cloudy substance inside. She said, "This is not a baby yet. This is just a blob of tissue." I was 10 to 12 weeks pregnant then. I didn't know my child was fully formed, a fully formed human being with a head and brain and arms and legs and hands and feet that all moved inside me. After that, I was led to a long hallway with benches where I waited to be called into the procedure room. I was going to have an abortion by vacuum aspiration. I didn't even know what that meant. When my name was called, I walked into a small room where a doctor and nurse were waiting. The doctor didn't say a word to me. I laid on my back and the nurse told me I could hold her hand. When the vacuum was turned on, I squeezed her hand so hard I think I could have broken her fingers. The pain was excruciating. A severe cramping in my abdomen that felt like my insides were being torn out. It must have been torture for my baby. When the doctor finished, I was in tears. I said to him, "I want to look." I wanted to look inside the clear plastic drum behind me and see what was taken out of me. Was it really a blob of tissue? Or was there a tiny human body in there with heads, arms, and legs? The doctor was furious with me. He yelled at the nurse, "Get her out of here!" And the nurse took me by the hand, covering my eyes so I couldn't see, and walked me down the hall. I was taken to a huge room with rows and rows of beds. Many of the beds were filled with women, some crying, some reading, some just lying there. That's what I did. I just laid there, not making a sound. I watched the big clock on the wall until it was time for me to go back to the airport. I don't remember much about the flight home, except that it hurt worse than any menstrual cramps I'd ever had. As time passed after the abortion, the choice to end my child's life became my hugest regret. The abortion started a domino effect of problems. I was plagued with grief and guilt. While still in high school, I had 2 more crisis pregnancies that ended in miscarriages. I became severely depressed and tried to end my life several times. I developed panic attacks and eating disorders. I abused alcohol and drugs. I had insomnia and nightmares. When I was 21, just 5 years after my abortion, I had to have a hysterectomy. I would never be able to get pregnant again. I aborted and miscarried the only children I would ever have. This all started with my choice to have an abortion. It sounds odd when I think about it, a choice. I ask myself now, would I have chosen abortion knowing this was my future? There is no way. 40 long years later, I did find some help. I heard about a Rachel's Vineyard weekend retreat. It was during that weekend that I took time to think about my abortion and miscarriage experiences. I identified the ways the loss of my children impacted my life. I discovered a lot of unresolved feelings, but most of all, I received forgiveness. Forgiveness from God, from myself, and from the child I aborted. I learned there is nothing we can do that God's mercy doesn't cover. The Rachel's Vineyard weekend began my healing process, and the results have been life-changing. Because of what I've been through, I pray that pregnant couples say yes to life and never have to go through the trauma of abortion. And I pray that couples and their families who have experienced abortion reach out to their churches and community and find the kind of help I found. But I don't want anyone to have to wait 40 years. That is why I tell my story. That is why I'm silent no more.